I would say that the hope comes from that we're already seeing that the freedom movement here is growing. Just in the past election, a lot of the discourse was focused on freedom versus dependency, and so that's something that hasn't really been seen to this scale before. And so that's part of what fuels my hope, at least, is that our work is having an impact in the greater discourse in Puerto Rico.
This is Atlas Network with Michael Carnuccio.
Welcome to Atlas Network with Michael Carnuccio, where we bring you the people shaping freedom's future from every corner of the globe. Well, today's episode takes us to Puerto Rico, where a groundbreaking project is not only shifting the culture, but inspiring the next generation to see entrepreneurship as a path to dignity, prosperity, and self-reliance. I'm joined by Terry Nola, Executive Director of Centro, CRECE, and Isabel, Program Manager, to talk about their extraordinary initiative, Portraits of Prosperity. Through hands-on workshops, visual storytelling, and powerful exhibitions, they're changing hearts and minds, and their approach might just offer a blueprint for liberty advocates everywhere. Stick around, because you're going to hear how a student with a camera and a question can disrupt decades of dependency. And that's why this work earned them a semi-finalist spot for the 2026 Latin America Liberty Award. I'm so excited for this conversation. Terry, Isabel, so excited to have you on the show. We got to start off with the big idea, because there's a conversation about like a hot dog stand, and it's just crazy to think a hot dog stand could have such influence, but you got to jump us right in there and tell us about this project.
So I think that Portraits of Prosperity is born out of a need that we saw a couple of years ago, where we were trying to find stories to share as part of our programs and contents about the people that just wake up every day in Puerto Rico and just go out there and get stuff done. The innovators, the entrepreneurs, the people that, despite a lot of what has happened in this beginning of the 21st century in Puerto Rico, have chosen not to leave and have chosen to invest their time and their resources to create prosperity in Puerto Rico. And so we went about doing that exercise, and we found that, those stories were lacking, that we could not share them. Because as we know, the emphasis was always on the negative, not on the positive. So we set out to purposely showcase those stories and find them. And that's where Isabel comes in. She came up with this brilliant idea of using students, university students and high school students, to help us capture and tell those stories. So I'm going to leave Isabel now to explain a little bit about what we found through this project, and the stories of hot dog stands and auto mechanics that we have found around the island.
Yeah, so we knew early on, a lot of our work focuses on younger audiences. So we knew early on we wanted to address that group of people. And our initial challenge was that talking to youth about entrepreneurship and economic freedom can feel a little bit abstract or too ideological, and they start zoning out, not paying attention. And so we thought about how can we get to these people in a way that they understand, in a way that they want to engage with. And social media, photography is their language. So we figured that out pretty early on. And we decided to create this project, which is a photography and short film exhibit, where students from high school and university go out into their communities They identify someone. It can be as big as, a corporation or as small as a hot dog stand, that is contributing or adding value to their community in one way or another. And they interview this person, they get to know them, they learn about how they got to where they are. And through that process, they take a photo or they produce a short film about that person. And we host an exhibit during the summer that showcases 100 photographs and short films about these people. And we figured out initially that students, first of all, love this opportunity because it engages them emotionally, it builds curiosity, it allows them to see entrepreneurship as human, not theoretical. So it brings these big ideas down to the practical day to day. How does this impact me and my community? How can I, by looking at these examples, learn that there is possibility here in Puerto Rico, which is one of the challenges we're facing today, is that a lot of young people are leaving the island in search of better opportunities. And in part, that's fueled by all the negative news, the negative coverage that we get. But also people forget that you can create opportunities on your own. You can have that sense of agency and build something that isn't already here. And so this project intends to do that.
So one of the things I love about this story is there's this initiative, right, that you had, Isabel, where you're like, hey, you know what? I've got an idea. I think this could really work. But then there's also this culture in the organization that took that idea, adopted it, and ran with it for a lot of success. There's something that we can learn there for peer organizations throughout the worldwide freedom movement. So can you all talk about just the collaboration and the working environment you have that allowed for such a neat idea to be birthed and have such impact?
Yes, we at CRECE, we know that in order to shift that Overton window and change mindsets, that we need to start very young, particularly in a place like Puerto Rico, where we have generations of kids and families who depend on government assistance for daily subsistence. So they lack role models. They don't necessarily see the value of agency in their lives. So we know that in order to change that, we need to start engaging with kids, and we have programs that engage them beginning at the age of 6. But so when Isabel came in and joined our team, she was young, and what better way of figuring out how to engage young people than to tap on your young talent and ask them, how would you go about doing this? And we really do believe that is, at least as far as I'm concerned, in my organization, and I think in the freedom movement in general, if we are going to be successful, we do need to tap on the talent of young people who are looking to organizations like CRECE and others in Atlas Network, for example, to find jobs that have purpose, where they feel that they can contribute positively and with to make a change. And that's a very appealing idea to youth. They might not know a lot about economic freedom or classical liberal values, but they do want to make a positive impact. They are change driven. And so Isabel was the starting point of I think of this project at CRECE. But since then, through our interns and our fellows, we are allowing them to design those programs that appeal to young adults and to youth and to kids. And we're giving them the latitude for them to create and innovate inside our organization. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I would add that something that CRECE does really well is that it understands that policy follows culture, right? And for policy to change, culture has to change. And that starts when people believe that something different is possible. And so a lot of our work focuses on that grassroots work where we try to shift culture by engaging directly with individuals. And that's something that through our various programs, CRECE has nailed down, right? We like to call ourselves a think and action tank because a lot of our work is more focused on the action part of it. So yeah, I would add that that's part of the success of CRECE and of this program.
So you're touching on something there that I wanted to ask you all, because I'm sure you've heard a critic say, look, nice photographs don't change policy, right? You're playing on the fringe here. And yet you're seeing impact, and you talked about shifting culture there. So how would you respond to those critics that maybe don't understand or don't see the depth of the program?
I would say that the people who, here in Puerto Rico at least, the people who end up driving policy are the ones most invested in it. And a lot of the times here, it's entrepreneurs. They experience the system firsthand, the permits, taxes, the power outages, bureaucracy. So they understand what needs to change. But for it to change, people first need to believe that self-reliance is possible, upward mobility is achievable here. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't believe that today, not because they're wrong, because it's genuinely hard. And so this project shows very concretely through these photographs that it is hard, but it's also very possible. We have over the years, this will be our fifth year running the program. Over the years, we've gathered the examples of over 400 individuals who have achieved that, who have shown that it is possible. And their examples show other people that they too can achieve that.
Yes, and I also would add that this is we believe in long-term change, and this is a type of program that brings that about, and we are already seeing that change happening. And we're seeing it, for example, in the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which, the latest edition, entrepreneurial intent, particularly among young adults, is the highest it has ever been in Puerto Rico to date. Our own research, quantitative research that we are conducting, points us in that direction, that it is young adults and young kids who are most willing to take the risk and engage in entrepreneurship. They, again, they want to make something that is their own, but the added value of that for them is that it contributes or something positive to their community. And I think that entrepreneurship is the best way of actually achieving that. And that's the attraction of entrepreneurship among young people in today.
One of the things that I like so much about this project and your story is that let's say this: the podcast here, the Worldwide Freedom Movement, right, pays attention to learn about each other, see what's happening, get some new ideas. And I think they learned from this something about how you all took this idea, but then you put it up in galleries and you have it online and you kind of just put it out there to the public. It wasn't just laser focused in an echo chamber of people who already understand about entrepreneurship. So I think there's something instructive to learn there. Maybe by the public response. Were you surprised by the response that you've gotten to this project? Or did you kind of expect that, look, there's demand out there if we tell these stories, if we share them, Isabel, you mentioned, through these mediums in this way that people are consuming content now, we'll be able to get a big response?
Yeah, I think initially, well, because we specifically targeted young people through social media, we expected that there would be a warm reception to it, but not to the extent that it has. Again, we are in our fifth year. Over this year, We have over 100 students already signed up, and we just launched our inscription period. And so each year we grow in the amount of people interested in participating. We have professors from high school and university who reach out, and they actually assign this project as part of their curriculum, as a project within their class, in photography classes, in entrepreneurship classes. So we're definitely happy that it has had such a warm reception, but also the enthusiasm from not just the students, but also their mentors, their professors, and their parents.
I was going to add one thing about this project, and um, is that we chose to put together this exhibit of the collection of photographs and short films in a shopping center. And we did this because we thought it was the best way of reaching everyday people, not just putting it in an art gallery or somewhere that is not accessible. The beauty of it is that we put the collection of stories together, and we set it up in actually Puerto Rico's biggest shopping mall. And we have done this every year, and we get over 1,000 visitors each year, and it provides a space. Imagine if you're in a shopping center and you're doing your shopping, and all of a sudden you see this collection of photographs, and your curiosity immediately sparks, and you decide that you're going to walk in and figure out what these pictures are about. And once you start reading and seeing the stories behind those photographs, and they'll start asking you, who took these pictures? And once they learn that it's high school students and university students, the entire room becomes a very inspiring and moving experience. Because as somebody who was just shopping at the mall, you come out believing that Puerto Rico is 100 times better than what they tell you. Not 100, I don't know, 1,000 times better than they tell you every day. And that drives us. It really drives us, and it drives CRECE's mission to continue expanding freedom in Puerto Rico.
And you talked about mission, and kind of you had this phrase before where you said we're interested in the long term. We're looking for the future, right? And so talking about outcomes and impact, right, in a place where Puerto Rico is known for bureaucracy and red tape, utility costs, expenses that just restrict or put a cap on. You guys have said 94% of students are saying that they want to start a business, that they want to be entrepreneurs. I mean, that's amazing about the future, facing those challenges, and yet they've got this energy. Was that a targeted goal? Is that something for the organization that you're after, that you measure purposefully? And what does that mean for outcomes in the future for Puerto Rico?
Definitely, it's something that we do measure as part of the program. Once they finish with their participation, we send them a survey to evaluate how their perception has changed. Like you said, last year, 94% of the students who participated stated that they would consider starting a business. I think it was 91% said that they understand it's difficult, but that they believe it's achievable. I think it was 100% of students from last year who expressed that they now see entrepreneurship as a valuable path to prosperity, which is one of the biggest things we were trying to achieve with this program, is that they can see and they believe that this is a way to create opportunity here. So it's definitely a really exciting to see how well they captured the essence of what we were trying to teach them. And something that we haven't mentioned, but is relevant right now, is that as part of the program, students have to take one webinar on entrepreneurship, financial freedom, individual liberty. And we actually offer those in partnership with another Atlas Network partner, which is FEE, the Foundation for Economic Education. So the program has allowed us to expand, right, our reach and our network, and use some of the resources that Atlas Network has allowed us to learn about. And students absolutely love those webinars. We always get really positive feedback. And so it's part of how we achieve those results, and that change in perception is by offering them these tools, right, so that they themselves can learn how to have better financial futures.
Outstanding. When we think about this program and we look at what's happened since you guys launched Portraits of Prosperity, and you've really started engaging everyone in that conversation, you've now had impact beyond your borders. Other organizations, as you've mentioned, that you've shared this with. What are you seeing and hearing from your peers? Has anyone else adopted this idea, or have they maybe taken that and been able to come up with something on their own? Maybe they're there in Puerto Rico that you work with, or maybe they're beyond your borders throughout Latin America. What have you seen so far as the response within the Worldwide Freedom Movement?
Well, we a couple of years ago, we were at the New York Liberty Forum, and we started chatting with the team at FEE, and they loved this project. They thought it was outstanding. So they actually adapted it, and in a small scale used it as an incentive in one of their conferences for high schoolers a couple of years ago. And that collaboration, initial talk that, as you know, happened in the hallways of the hotel during the conference. Our relationship and our partnership grew, and since then we have continued growing that to the point where last year, for the first time, we had FEE in-person webinars in Puerto Rico, actually during the exhibit in the shopping center. Wow. So that was one thing that happened. And then through those collaborations, we also got to meet the wonderful people in Guatemala of Universidad Francisco Marroquí and CRECES. And they too are right now looking to develop their own version of Portraits of Prosperity in Guatemala. So I think those are two examples of how this project is really very easy to replicate, to adapt, and to scale. Because it has a great potential for scalability. We started with the photograph and the exhibit and the contest, but then we added the FEE webinars, and then we added the FEE in-person webinars and the short films. So, there are a lot of ways in which you can actually build up the program without significant added investment. So that's one of the things that I think has really worked out for us.
As we talk about such rich partnerships and the scalability, folks, I want to encourage you to look into these partnerships, help organizations and leaders like Tere and Isabel and their colleagues. And you can find all this information at atlasnetwork.org. And while you're there, I encourage you to become a member of the Atlas Club with me, or you could, with a $25 donation, get Freedom's Champion magazine, and you can learn all about the Worldwide Freedom Movement and where you can have the biggest impact, or where you can learn from the success of programs like Portraits for Prosperity. And Isabel, Terry, I'd love to shift the conversation here and just talk about your partnership with Atlas Network. I know it's been a pretty in-depth, and there's a lot of personal relationships, but also the organization itself with grants and leadership development programs. But I'd love to hear about it from your words. What has that partnership meant to you?
I think the biggest value, I mean, it's a very valuable partnership, but the biggest value that I find is is the relationships we have built throughout the network, and how we can tap on those relationships to bring something that is so unique and so needed, which is a global perspective of what's happening out there. And Puerto Rico, we're an island. We tend to look inward, right? And so I have discovered so many amazing stories from all over the world that are worth telling, and they're full of optimism and challenges, but just a lot of resilience, and those stories. I have been bringing them to Puerto Rico because I think it's important that we gain perspective and that we understand that, things are tough here, but they're a lot tougher in a lot of other places. And we can learn from each other. I also don't believe in reinventing the wheel. If another organization has something that is valuable to me and I can use it and tap on that talent to apply it to my own community in Puerto Rico, I will definitely do that. And that's, for example, the beauty of this partnership with FEE. They've been talking to high schoolers for ages. And in our case, their curriculum is our curriculum because we all fall under the US. And so it's very, very easy for us to bring their voices to Puerto Rico and offer that amazing tool and those amazing programs that they have. And I think that is the biggest value, that I don't have to necessarily walk around trying to figure out how to make a program work, because I have a whole pool of talent from all over the world that I can go to and figure out how they're doing it and whether it fits me, and what I need to do to make it happen. So I think that is the biggest contribution of Atlas Network to CRECE, other than the amazing training programs and just the grants and everything else that just adds so much value to this experience, and that gives us, or at least it gives me, and I know a lot of members in my team, just a positive encouragement. And we all know that this is not easy work. So we need that positive encouragement. And Atlas Network is always there to help us focus on our work and to cheer us on. So that we greatly appreciate.
Isabel, I wonder, same question for you, because someone who entrepreneurial yourself, right, came up with this idea, really pushed it through and tapped into a younger generation, which I've noticed at all of the Liberty Forums, and you all mentioned before the annual Liberty Forum and Freedom Dinner that is every year in New York City in November. that there are more and more of the younger generation that is getting involved in the worldwide freedom movement, and they're having such a positive impact. So I wonder, Isabel, about your perspective of Atlas Network and that partnership.
Yeah, I would say on a personal level, the Atlas Network partnership that we've been able to build and grow has allowed me to strengthen my leadership skills. I was part of the Leader Lab program a few years ago, and I grew exponentially. I learned a lot about how to better um, communicate within our team, how to better express our ideas, how to manage conflict that may arise. So on a personal level, I'm extremely grateful to LS Network because I've seen the impact in myself, but also within our organization, I think those trainings have also allowed us to strengthen our infrastructure and the way that we carry out our work and the way that we rely on each other as team members. We've learned a lot about that from your example and a lot of your team members' example. And so I would say that's the biggest impact that I've gotten from this.
So we're at the time that I think this podcast will be airing. The Liberty Forum, the Latin American Liberty Forum, will be coming up in Lima, Peru. We'll be there together with so many of our colleagues. And when I used to run a free market think tank in Oklahoma, I would come back from these. My team would like it, but sometimes dread it, because I would come back with a notebook full of ideas and all these things that I learned, and I'd be full of like all this fire. Do you know what they did here? And we can achieve that. What is the experience like for you all as you get ready to go to the Liberty Forum in Peru? What are you most looking forward to, or are you most expectant of?
I think, yeah, I'm going to have to get a new notebook before I go to Lima. But yeah, I'm just, that's precisely what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to learning and just coming back with ways of doing our job better, because we already do a good job, but we can always do it better, and so and just learning from others. And I also I want to say that one thing I told someone at Atlas Network once, that going to these forums gives me, as the head of the organization at least, the opportunity to really focus without distractions on the organization. And I told her that it was like, going on a retreat and just taking care of your baby for 2 days. This is your baby, and you're just going to focus on your child. And I think that that's what it is. I like that breaking point, like mini vacation retreat, where I get to just think about CRECE and where we are heading, whether we have to make any changes in the way that we're doing things, and how we can improve. And I just think that's what I'm most looking forward to.
I would agree with Tere, and also something that I've found that happens to me when I go to an Atlas Network event is that I'm able to better focus on the bigger picture, on a more macro level. And that's really important, because sometimes we become so focused on this one project or this one thing that we're working on, but going to these events allows us to think further than that and amplify our vision and what we're doing.
And folks, if you'd like to join Isabel, Tere, and I at the Liberty Forum in Peru, or any of the Atlas Network Liberty Forums throughout the year, go to atlasnetwork.org, click that events tab, and you'll be able to see where we'll be around the globe and how you can partner with the Worldwide Freedom Movement and attend these events as well. Okay, so a couple final questions that I'd like to ask you all, just in terms of where things go from here, right? We talked about some of the challenges in Puerto Rico and where the country's been historically, but yet you all both have this hope about you. You have this energy, not just because of the program, but thinking about where things could go. And so, why is that? What do you see for the future of Puerto Rico?
Okay. I would say that the hope comes from that we're already seeing that the freedom movement here is growing. Just in the past election, a lot of the discourse was focused on freedom versus dependency. And so that's something that hasn't really been seen to this scale before. And so that's part of what fuels my hope, at least, is that our work is having an impact in the greater discourse in Puerto Rico. We're also seeing more and more concrete steps towards that. For example, there's conversations right now about tax reform, which is something that we've been championing for a while, about faster permitting processes, about occupational licensing reciprocity. So we're seeing changes. There's small changes, of course, but every big movement needs small incremental steps to get to where we want to be. And I think that's something that's been fueling my hope, and also the work that we do with these young students, seeing them so invested in these programs, seeing them genuinely curious and show that they want to learn more, they want to be able to create this prosperity here, is part of what fuels my hope as well.
Yeah, I think that it's also, Puerto Rico is a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to build a future and to make a home. Whatever that may be for you. But it is a wonderful place to live. And I think it drives me that I would want young people to not miss the opportunity of building their future here. I think that you can. I think that we can make it better. And I think that we're starting to see that, and we see it with the young people that are reaching out to us, with the rise of an increase in entrepreneurial intent among young people in Puerto Rico, and like Isabel just mentioned, the issues that are being talked about in the public discourse, that we are focusing on, are intimately tied to economic freedom. And I think that it's probably the first time in Puerto Rican politics where we have had such a long period of discourse centered around these topics. I think experience have taught us, at least many of us in Puerto Rico, that in order to get out of this, economically stagnant position where we're at, we really do need to make changes. And those changes need to be structural reforms, and in the way of taxes, bureaucracy, and regulatory changes that just need to happen. And I think a lot more people in Puerto Rico are extremely aware that it needs to happen, much more so than 13 years ago when we started. Definitely. And that keeps us going.
13 years. Congratulations. That is, whenever organizations pass that 10-year mark, because you're right, it's challenging. And there may be that first year, it's the honeymoon stage, and there's a lot of excitement, and then it levels off and gets challenging. Then there's another bump, but you get past 10. That's amazing. And congratulations to that. Excited about your future. But we're bearing the lead here. I mean, you're a finalist for the Latin American Liberty Award 2026. Can we talk about that for a second? When you found out that this project, Portraits for Prosperity, and the work that you'd done became a finalist for the award, What did that mean to you? And I'll start, Isabel, with you. Right, you kind of had this idea, led this initiative, and now you're being recognized among most of your peers and might actually win the award. What would that mean for you?
Oh my gosh, when I got the email from Melissa, I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. And later on when we found out who we were competing against, it's just such an honor to be put on the same stage as these other amazing organizations that are doing such wonderful work and that we've gotten to know through Atlas Network events. So for me, it's just truly an honor to see how far this project has come along to from being brainstormed as this could maybe happen, but not likely. And then now being on stage in Peru talking about this project is just a dream come true. And honestly, I still can't believe it.
Terry, what would it mean for the organization to win the award?
I think for us, it would mean that making investments long term, and making investments in youth and betting on young voices is definitely worth it. And that when you are able to establish meaningful connections between young people and classical liberal values, where they see them in action, they actually understand what that means in real life, that is a life-changing experience. And that's what we are witnessing through Portraits of Prosperity and other programs. And so to me, it would be just an amazing tribute, not to CRECE, but to the amazing people behind those pictures and behind those stories that, quite frankly, are the unsung heroes of Puerto Rico. And I'd like to think that award would place them in the spot that they deserve. So that's what I think.
And so as we kind of wrap this conversation and get ready to go to Lima together, I want to bring it home. And I know everyone watching has heard about the excitement in Puerto Rico. Maybe they've gotten to visit before, maybe they haven't, but let's pretend we're having this conversation and we're sitting in the office right now, right? And so we're getting done and we're going to go out and have something to eat. And we're going to eat something that you would at home that's specifically Puerto Rican. I can't get it here in Oklahoma, right? What are we eating together?
I would say we would have a mofongo, which is a plantain-based dish. You can add either chicken, steak, or seafood to it, and it's just incredibly delicious. Look it up because you will love it. So you have to come visit so we can actually try it.
And today is actually a rainy day. It's kind of like, you know, a perfect day for a mofongo, actually, because it warms your heart and your tummy. So it would be awesome to have one.
What is the one thing, if somebody comes to visit you and comes to Puerto Rico, that most people misunderstand or miss when they take a trip there? What's the one thing you say, you've got to do this to really understand the culture and the history and everything here?
I would say rent a car and get out of the city, because Puerto Rico is a small island, but it's very diverse in its topography. And, we have oceans in the coast, but we have a mountain range in the middle, which, brings in a lot of rain and tropical forests and a lot of nature, a lot of diversity. And exploring the island is amazing, because you'll figure out how in such a tiny little piece of the world you can find so many different landscapes in Puerto Rico has that to offer. So that's what I would say. Isa, you go.
I would say to before you come or when you're here to learn about our history because we have such a unique mix of cultures that have, over the centuries been in Puerto Rico and have evolved to what we are as a Puerto Rican culture today. And as opposed maybe to other Latin American countries, because we have that strong connection to the United States, it's very interesting to see how that mix of Latin culture and American culture kind of blends together in what we have here today.
So, last question for each one of you, and we'll kind of go in order. Isabel, I'm going to ask you first. What is next, right? What's the next big idea that you have or the next big dream that you see for Puerto Rico and maybe that the organization can be part of?
What first came to mind was we just had an event in November called Prospera, which was an event that was designed to join people from different sectors, academia, nonprofit, government, private sector, and think about solutions, concrete solutions to some of the problems that we're facing, particularly focused on bureaucracy, taxes, and innovation. And from that event, at least I think I can speak for all of our team members. We were so inspired to see how many people are willing to join forces and brainstorm and actually put action into their ideas to make changes in Puerto Rico. And so, as part of that event, now we're moving on to the second phase, which is preparing a declaration to advocate for these changes on a policy level, so we can see improvements in these areas. So I think that's one of the bigger things that we have coming up next, and I think will be great for Puerto Rico.
Terry, what about you?
Well, I think I agree with Isabel on Prospera. That's our big next big endeavor. And I also want to add that we're just about to publish a truly exceptional research study that we've conducted called Inspiring Work, thanks to an Atlas Network grant. And this study focuses on how to incentivize or motivate people on nutrition assistance to enter the formal workforce. And it has been a very powerful study that not only debunks some myths about welfare dependency, but also shines a light on how to go about promoting agency and self-reliance. So I think, our research continues to guide our work, and all of what we're finding out, we will integrate into Prospera, which is the other aspect of our work, which is coalition building at a grassroots level. So we're very excited for 2026. It's going to be an amazing year.
So I know I said last question a second ago, but as you all were both talking about the future, a question occurred to me, and I'd love to just throw it out here. We'll go Terry first, and Isabel, I'll ask you for your thoughts as well. We've talked about the worldwide freedom movement, and I've invited folks on this podcast to go to atlasnetwork.org and to join there. And it strikes me that you talk to philanthropists, donors, if someone's looking to contribute, and they're getting excited about your story. I'm sure you've had these conversations before. Terry, what would you say to someone who is a donor to the worldwide freedom movement that may have helped with some of the work you've done?
I would say thank you. Thank you for thinking about Puerto Rico, which is often left out. Thank you for giving us the freedom to create initiatives that just allow us the privilege of working with families, with kids, with communities, to just offer opportunities for them to experience what financial freedom, what prosperity means to them. We believe that those experiences are precisely what shape the future of Puerto Rico. So we are infinitely grateful to them.
And Isabel, I'm going to ask you if someone bumps into you at the Liberty Forum or anywhere else, and they say, you know, I'm thinking of contributing and giving to the Worldwide Freedom Movement, but you know, maybe I don't. Can I really make a difference? It's like a drop in the ocean, right? With how big the challenge is. What would you say to them?
I would say that I get where they're coming from because it does feel overwhelming. But I think our programs are an example that no amount is too small to make a change. One of our programs, which we haven't really talked too much about today, but it's called Lemonade Day. And it's a program that teaches kids from 6 to 12 years old how to become entrepreneurs themselves through the model of a lemonade stand. And even that program, just one manual, we offer them educational materials, one manual, a donation of $10 can cover that. So, and that's one child, but one family, one community that has been impacted by just this $10 donation. And I think that shows that no amount is too small to make a change. So we really appreciate that people believe in our work, believe in our mission, and are willing to support that.
Tere, Isabel, thank you so much for such a powerful conversation. Portraits of Prosperity isn't just a program, it's a movement, a visual student-led revolution that shows how economic freedom creates worldwide hope. And for those of you listening, remember Atlas Network is proud to support leaders like Tere and Isabel, and we're only able to do it because of donors like you. So with a gift of $25 or more, you'll receive a complimentary subscription to Freedom's Champion magazine, and you'll join a global network of supporters like my wife and I who believe that freedom is worth fighting for. You can also connect with leaders like Isabel and Terry at one of our Liberty Forums, like the one coming up in Lima, Peru. And you can join us in May for the 2026 edition of the Atlas Network Experience, where we'll travel all across Germany with dedicated pro-liberty philanthropists and local freedom champions to see this work in action. Until next time, thank you for all you do for the Worldwide Freedom Movement. Stay free.